How we gupping today? Are we gupping or are we gupping? How did taps go? Honestly, I was pretty disappointed. So I decided to bring Sam Hyde. It's like a meme, and they didn't even let me in the building. No, I'm just kidding. I thought it went actually pretty fun. I thought it was a pretty funny show. Did he troll you? No, I think it was just like an ordinary. It was just a normal show. I think he guys got way too mindful. Was Nick on? No, he just sits in the audience. I will say it was kind of funny that one of the guys there was apparently a big fan of me, and apparently Nick has been like doing a lot to like set the studio up and everything. It's like he was like, yeah, all that camera and audio that you're doing on your stream, yeah, we've been doing that too. I was like, nice. Also, I will say those T9 drives was the answer. Thank God. I recorded for like 9 hours on those bad boys. Easy. They format, no overheating. Oh, perfecto. Did you get the show with 2 chairs? Yeah, I got the 2 chairs show. Tyler, why do you keep spamming the same shit? What do you want? Folks on Dev Hour mentioned that they got into Obsidian because of you. They said they'd be open having it. What is Dev Hour? Dev Hour, YouTube. Are you sick? No, I just woke up like 23 minutes ago. So I decided to put on my little gut voice, my Hasanabi real life. Hey guys, what's up? I like to do political activism. Good one. Someone on Pod Save America and CNN. I haven't watched either one yet. Oh my God. You've got 3 minutes. Go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so you... Fuck. Let me make this straight. Okay, so how did it go? You recorded for that long? No frame drops and nothing?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. I will admit, I'm very surprised that worked, but good for you. Good for you. I'll take the L. I'll take the L because I'm a man, and I'll take it.
Okay.
Where do we go from here? So you're going to use the 6K.
Everything else works fine. I don't know what else. There's nowhere else to go from here. I don't know what.
Okay.
Nothing else was wrong. It was just finding a drive. I don't know where else. But that's okay. You got 2 minutes and 15 seconds left.
Wait, why am I under a time limit?
Because I don't know why. Because we have nothing to talk about. I don't know. I don't want to spend 12 hours.
I just wanted to know how it went. I just wanted to know how it went. I was willing to admit when I was wrong. I'm still very surprised that shit worked.
Okay.
But I guess I just wanted to publicly say you were right. Congrats. I'm glad you got it all worked out. Would still love to work on that studio sometime. And sorry for yelling.
Wow.
That's all I got.
Okay. I love you. Be careful.
Love you too.
Wow. Darius messaged me and asked, "Is this worth?" I don't know what any computer stuff is worth these days. Wait, a 4070 Super and a 1400F for $1,300? Is this? This seems like a really good deal, no? Well, all right. What are we watching first today? How long is this? 2 hours. Oh, I don't know if I could do it. I tried to watch Bro, I'm getting black billed by Lonerbox H3 comments. All you gotta do is be attractive and you win. It's more than that. There's it's the dynamic that I pointed out before. I mean, I can point it out as much as I want, but I don't know what the point is of, or what it even does. The issue is that if you're not politically aligned with any communities, then you have no like large community that just like by default has your back. And since we're not politically aligned with any communities, if you're in anywhere in my orbit, basically it's free reign to just like go off hard on you. And that's basically what Lonerbox is now experiencing, because Lonerbox is no longer like with the left 100% on like the crazy far leftist shit. So now he's fucked. Yeah. It's, I mean, like, it's annoying. Like, the goal is the goal is always like, yeah, attack the out group, basically.
That represents the Shia community of Lebanon. It started out.
Watch Lonerbox? I'm okay. But for anyone who thinks I'm a self-hating Arab or anything like that, y'all can watch him. And then come back to me, and then tell me how much you hate me.
Out as a social service organization, actually an ambulance corps.
You called Lonerbox a genocide supporter? Yeah, I mean, like, that's basically how it goes. Yeah, you're either with them 100% or you're against 100%, yeah. Yeah, I tried watching some of that Janksgiving, and it was, I think I turned on Justical Stream like 3 times. And every single time I turned it on, Hasan was saying the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And it was like, it was agonizing to listen to. Holy shit.
You know, Hasan's on like a new, like, he's just on a big level. Here's the other thing with Hasan. He's unreasonably good looking and like cool and dresses cool.
Tell me about it.
But do you know what I mean? Like Hasan would be an influencer no matter what he was saying, because he is
hot,
very attractive and very cool and genuinely a good person too. I will say, like, Hasan is actually a cool, fun, good person.
Jesus. So cool, so fun, such a good person, yeah. Is there not validity to this? No. Hasan wouldn't make it in any kind of like not the most popular kind of like media sphere apparatus thing or whatever, because he can't handle the haters or whatever. You can already see where like it bothers him a lot when he doesn't have like 100% of the narrative on his side or whatever. I mean, obviously, like, being attractive and everything helps for sure, but like on a personal psychological level, I don't think he'd be able to handle not being in the majority opinion on something. You know, so much I just hate watching you lately, way more than usual. Yeah, I don't know if it's because I was picking up more viewers or because there's nothing else to talk about, or I have no idea. I don't know.
Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm John Lovett, and guest hosting with me today is the massively popular streamer leftist dumbass himself. You just self-described.
That's okay, sure, fair. I say himbo, but damn.
Okay. Hasan Piker, welcome back.
It's good to be back. Thank you for having me.
After my conversation with Hasan, you'll hear my conversation with Seth Moulton. We talked about the Democratic Party. We talked about the controversy over his comments around trans athletes. Also on the feed right now, you can hear Dan's conversation with Jen O'Malley Dillon, Quentin Fulks, David Plouffe, and Stephanie Cutter about what went wrong in the Harris campaign. We're having a bunch of conversations about what we learned from the election, where we go from here, with a bunch of different voices, one of which is here today. People are mad that we talked to the Harris campaign. People are mad we're talking to you. People are mad, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But let's start with this.
It's a big tent.
It's a big tent. It's a big tent. All right.
Dick Cheney in it.
It's got Dick Cheney in it. It's got Hasan Piker in it.
Yeah.
It's got Dan Osborne in it. It's got Seth Moulton in it.
Yes. He's not in the tent. I don't know why you would say that, but God, fuck. It's so. This is how I'm trying to think of the comparison. Like when adults try to like talk about video games, or when like mainstream media tries to like 4channel is a place where B-tard posters post anon, crazy wacky. It's like people have no concept of the space, like try to talk about it, and it's like, oh my God, it's so fucking cringe. Like, Lil Bro's not in the tent. He's not a Democrat. He's not even a liberal. He's a fucking leftist. Like, oh God.
Cheney in it. It's got Hasan Piker in it.
Yeah.
It's got Dan Osborne in it. It's got Seth Moulton in it.
Yeah. You know, tent shouldn't maybe feature Dick Cheney in it, but everybody else I can have a conversation with.
Great. All right. Now look, the main pastime on the left, other than being mad for the last few weeks, is everyone saying how right they were all along about Democrats being out of touch and bound to lose.
Arrest me. Sorry. So I sat at this chair. Well, maybe not at this chair, but I had the offline interview with John. I think a month before the election, and a lot of the concerns that I brought up to him, it seemingly came across as somewhat prescient, where people went back to the footage, and I've been seeing comments that were rather positive about, like, okay, he said a lot of stuff there that was objectively correct, seeming.
Yeah, I want to talk about one aspect of that.
Is that somebody? I saw somebody post on the subreddit that that's not even true, that he said that he thought Kamala was going to win. I don't even know if I don't have the link to it, but
that, which is that you were saying, others were saying that, hey, like Trump going on Rogan, Trump going on Theo Von, like something is happening here, and we need to understand it. We need to address it. It's real. And I remember like my experience.
I still, however, maintain the position until this day, and I still maintain this position that Kamala Harris will most likely win the election come tomorrow. And this is not just me looking at the polls, even though, of course, I have looked at the polls this entire time, but also looking at the vibes. I don't just do poll analysis. I do polls plus vibes.
Like, it's so... Dude, I can't live in this world. It's boring. The problem is it's boring to me. Like, all the fact gathering and all the research and the reading, everything, like, none of it matters because you just go on and, like, I can't say anything because I'm trying to talk to these people. I don't even want to. It's just so lazy. Like, what value do you bring to the world? You're not even willing to do, like, the most basic level of research. I don't know, man. Drive through. Anyway, so now we get to listen to how much of like a fortune teller Hasan is, despite the fact that he was just as wrong as anybody else. Where is this a clip or is this isn't that like a watchful? Oh, it says this.
Why do I do this? Well, the reason why I do polls plus vibes is because polls alone are not going to be enough. Okay. I have, however, learned something that's a little bit scary today, this morning. I've told you guys already, I have like a bunch of people that I talk to, normies in general. I have some high propensity voters, mid propensity voters, and low propensity voters in a place like California. And I look to who they vote for and how they vote as well, because I just want to kind of see like, a focus group basically. And my low propensity voter did vote for Donald Trump, which was shocking. And I don't know if it's because I basically kept asking him over and over again if he was going to go out and vote or not. But my low propensity conspiracy theory guy who loves RFK did actually end up voting. And that kind of shocked me a little bit. That kind of worried me a little bit because this is fucking California. It doesn't mean California's going to flip, obviously. Chat, this does not mean California's going to flip red. That's fucking idiotic. I'm not making that argument at all. But what it means is, even in a place where someone who is not likely to go out and vote at all, where his vote is not even going to fucking matter at all, he found time out of his day to go out and vote, even though he has never gone out and voted before. That, to me, is a little troublesome. I haven't really seen this anywhere else in the data, but that still scares me regardless, okay? So, having said that, however, I think that the fundamentals are on Kamala Harris's side still, okay? I think that I have no faith that low propensity voters won't vote for Trump is bizarre, but he is rallying the RFK supporters. Well, now that I've talked about the Kamala Harris side of things and what I consider to be like not great campaigning, for example, I think that she focused far too much on trying to win over the white suburban mothers, and you can win them over. No one is saying don't try to win them over, but the way to win them over is supposed to be a delicate balance where you're not hemorrhaging your base of support, because you cannot let the urban pop fall apart. Okay, you cannot let the urban population, black voters, brown voters, young voters in general, voters in college, students and the like, not come out and vote for you because they are just like too bored and too grossed out by, or too depressed to go out and vote because they just constantly hear you hugging and kissing the likes of Liz Cheney or saying you're going to have a Republican in your cabinet. It's not good, okay? It is not good. She needs white women. I understand that. I'm not against that, but there's a way to do that while...
Just one thing that's very hard for people to understand is just how disconnected, how disconnected the ordinary American population is from our, political sphere. And when I say I think that sometimes you guys think that disconnected means that, they don't know about the exact specifics of some Supreme Court case or of January 6th or of the Afghanistan pullout being in, how that was negotiated. When I say disconnect, I mean probably 50+% of the American population doesn't know the difference between Iraq and Afghanistan. Or 20% of Americans would probably think that Turkey is in Africa, or 30 to 50% of Americans probably didn't even know that January 6th was associated with an election thing. They thought it was just a protest turned riot in Washington, D.C. maybe, or it's that level of disconnect. The idea that Cheney had some huge depression on voting for Kamala or whatever, 50+% of Americans probably wouldn't even be able to tell you what Dick Cheney's role in government was. There's zero chance that there's that in Hasan's world, there's these Hispanics out there oh, essay, you hear about Cheney? Yeah, man, I hate that dude. Not voting for Kamala now. Absolutely, hombre, bro. Yeah, it's such a cringe. It's like I'm a leftist, and these are the things that I care about, and I'm going to tell you why poor black voters didn't vote, and it's because they don't like the war machine and the military-industrial complex that was headed by people like Dick Cheney. Like, little bro, nobody in these populations, nobody's in these cohorts are thinking about this or talking about this or even know anything about this. It's it's so stupid.
While simultaneously still communicating objectively popular policies to.
But anyway, let's hear about how Hasan got it perfectly right.
Happening here, and we need to understand it. We need to address it. It's real. And I remember, like, my experience. It's like seared in my mind of Trump being on Joe Rogan because of how, like, my path of understanding it. Because what I saw first were a bunch of people taking clips and saying, "Wow, Rogan really didn't like Trump. Trump is a mess on this show. He comes across terribly. Rogan was like kind of giving Trump space to hang himself rhetorically." And then I watch it and, like, Trump did fucking great in this interview.
Yeah, he's very telegenic. That's the thing that, like, a lot of.
It's the thing that bothers me too is that, like, Trump, first of all, Trump did not do great at that interview. If you like Trump, you'll leave that interview liking Trump. If you don't like Trump, for all the reasons you don't like Trump, you'll leave that interview like not liking Trump. Unless I missed something, because I had to turn it off. I only made it like halfway through. Maybe in the last hour, maybe he does significantly better, which is possible, I admit. I'll tell you, I didn't watch the entire thing. I'm not gonna lie. I could only do halfway through because it was so cringe. He couldn't answer a single fucking question about anything. It was the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life. So maybe in the last hour, maybe he does significantly better. So I'll hedge that, I guess, if you've watched it yourself. But yeah, it's just so funny because, like, I'm curious if I see these Pod Save America guys talking about, like, Biden's debate performance, are they gonna be like, oh God, it was a train wreck, it was a disaster? And then you watch, like, Trump, drunkenly stumble his way through the 50th Glazer podcast. Wow, Trump's actually he's actually pretty telegenic here. He actually did, like, a pretty decent job here. Like, did he actually, or, okay.
Rhetorically. And then I watch it and, like, Trump did fucking great in this interview.
Yeah, he's very telegenic. That's the thing that, like, a lot of people, I guess, refuse to factor in for some weird reason, is that, yeah, he definitely rambles on. He likes to call it the weave. And even Joe Rogan made fun of him for that a little bit in the process. But, like, there is something to be said about a relatively telegenic person who is able to portray himself as, I like to call it, honestly dishonest, where, like, everybody knows he's a bit of a scumbag.
I like to call it honestly dishonest. God damn, that's such an ingenious... what an ingenious way to put that. I wonder if that was ever a thing. I wonder if that was ever, like, one of the most popular.
And I'm watching the news now. They're declaring the end of the Trump era. Now, okay, I can see how in New York you might believe this is the end of his era. I'm just being honest with you. I live in Ohio amongst the poor whites. A lot of you don't understand why Trump was so popular, but I get it because I hear it every day. He's very loved. And the reason he's loved is because people in Ohio have never seen somebody like him. He's what I call an honest liar. Well, I'm not joking right now. He's an honest liar. That first debate.
What an original take. Good one.
Who is able to portray himself as, I like to call it, honestly dishonest, where, like, everybody knows he's a bit of a scumbag, but he's your scumbag. And he's able to get that across to a lot of people. And I don't think that there is really anyone with that level of television presence on the Democratic Party front. I think, like, the most skilled orator in the Democratic Party's ranks in the last couple of decades was obviously Barack Obama. And outside of that, I think, like, in a lot of instances, purely from optics point of view, Democrats' track is, like, technocratic, elitist, too serious about everything that they talk about. And there's certainly a lot of that on the Republican Party side as well. And we've seen failed initiatives from establishment Republicans that tried to recreate the Trump phenomenon with the likes of Ron DeSantis, and that was a massive failure. But ultimately, I think this goes beyond podcasts. This is something that I've been talking about quite frequently. I know the podcast thing is, like, the most, like, that's the one that got everyone's attention. But I said this on CNN last night, that you can't really podcast your way out of this problem. Like, having, there was that one tweet saying, like, oh, we just have 100 Pod Save Americans, but they all have to look like Hasan. Like, that's not how this works.
Oh, you think that one tweet might have been wrong? But the like, I guess, so I agree with that. It became the couple kind of, like, I don't know, like, just have had this devastating loss to Trump, and everybody's looking for these sort of little explanations that all feel like they just feel silly. Like, oh, we need a Joe Rogan of the left, and even saying, like, I don't even want to talk about how stupid that is anymore, because even that has become stupid. But I do agree that, like, people are like, oh, well, she should have gone on Rogan. All right, yeah, sure, I think so too.
That would not have changed the outcome of this election.
There's a larger problem to what you're getting at, which is, like, why don't we have figures and where, like, we think they would do great on that show, and why is someone like Joe Rogan now, who was 4 years ago open to Bernie, now suddenly open to Trump? Like, that's the deeper problem.
Yeah, these are better questions. That's true.
Like, you look at, like, successful Democratic messengers or progressive messengers over the last, like, decades. And you think, all right, well, Bill Clinton obviously was successful and he like ran against the Democratic Party in some way. Barack Obama did the same thing. Bernie does the same thing. AOC does the same thing. I'm not talking about on policy.
You don't mean it like also in the same direction of running against?
No, but running against the establishment in some way. And just saying, and the reason I connect them is because they all did something which is demonstrated that they were not part of the Democratic establishment, both like on policy and rhetorically, right? Like that's what they all did. And I'm just wondering like what? Like on policy, something which is demonstrated that they were not part of the Democratic establishment, both like on policy and rhetorically, right? Like that's what they all did. And I'm just wondering like what, like the one place where like I know you like find, you know, there's a place where there's like kind of an alignment of like the Seth Moulton critique of the Democratic Party and the lefty critique of the Democratic Party, which is just like, it's fucking annoying and like kind of, I don't know, pedantic in some way.
It's an incorrect interpretation, an incorrect autopsy to look back at a thing that the Democratic Party did not do at all and then say it's actually that reason. It's not anything that we did so far. It's not that we tacked to the right over and over again, despite people like myself and many others saying like, don't do this. You're going to hemorrhage the base. You're going to hemorrhage the base of support. You are going to cut away at your turnout. You're going to cut across many different constituencies that you rely on to create an effective coalition. And it's a very dangerous gamble to assume that you can decouple a lot of these people in the suburbs, a lot of like white women specifically, away from the Republican Party and vote for you instead. I know that they're high propensity voters, but it doesn't matter. There's still plenty of low propensity voters that you have to rely on to win. And that's precisely what the Democratic Party did. They hyper-focused on these key constituencies, despite the fact that polls were seemingly deadlocked after $30 million of ad spend.
Why did they hyper-focus on these key constituencies when they should have just talked about the Gaza war the entire time? They should have talked about my issue, the thing that I care about.
Key suburbs, right? Like it showed, at least I said this time and time again, it showed someone from the outside looking in that the message was not working. And you can have the best ground game possible. You can have, you know, hundreds of thousands of people all across the country door knocking. But if the top-down message that you're communicating is not resonating with people, then you're not going to be able to win an election. You're not going to have the effective turnout necessary to win this election. And that is precisely what happened. Now, does that mean that Trump's messaging was good? Of course not. It wasn't. It was actually pretty bad. And I would even go so far as to say the anti-trans ads were actually a distraction and not good. It was only effective in the DC bubble, I think, and the consultant bubble and the media class that saw those ads and were like, oh my God, this is an incredible ad. Like, they really ruined Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had a silly answer to an ACLU questionnaire.
Is there any way to discredit people like Hasan so that they can't destroy the party? There's... I'm trying to think of the analogy. Is it like the king has no clothes? If everybody is willing to play a game, then there's no way that you can really counter it. So like if you have people in media who don't do any homework or research on things and they just get passed shit by interns or whatever, then I mean like there's nothing you can really do about it, right? My guess is this guy's probably never watched a Hasan stream before. He doesn't know anything about him. He doesn't know anything about his positions. He was probably told things about him. He's like, oh sure, yeah, bring him on or whatever and have him, you know, co-chat. That'd be my guess. So I mean like if this is the level of responsibility or accountability you have for programs, then I mean there's nothing you can really do.
And I'm just wondering like,
but if the top-down message that you're communicating is not resonating with people, then you're not going to be able to win an election. You're not going to have the effective turnout necessary to win this election. And that is precisely what happened. Now, does that mean that Trump's messaging was good? Of course not. It wasn't. It was actually pretty bad. And I would even go so far as to say the anti-trans ads were actually a distraction and not good. It was only effective in the DC bubble, I think, and the consultant bubble and the media class that saw those ads and were like, oh my God, this is an incredible ad. Like, they really ruined Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had a silly answer to an ACLU questionnaire, okay? That just shows that.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if those anti-trans Republican ads were probably pretty effective outside of the DC bubble, but it just because I feel like I've seen, was it exit polling or whatever, that there were certain like woke issues or culture wars issues that like motivate or, you know, energize people a fuck ton.
That she is not the most experienced politician. This was all the way back in, I believe, 2020, right? She literally had to drop out of the primary anyway at that time. That's one thing, okay? But that should not be a campaign killer. If you personally think that that's a campaign killer, then your campaign is weak. This message across the board should never be able to end a single campaign. Then Teflon Don is real. I mean, the man had the grab him by the pussy tape come out as the October surprise in 2016, and he still won. And since then, there's been a litany of different controversies, including but not limited to straight up undermining American democracy by doing January 6th. And yet people are still voting for him. And one must ask the question, why? And I think overall, the same exact problems that persisted in 2016 when the economy was seemingly very good, right? Especially as opposed to like the post-COVID economy and its recovery. People were still very frustrated with what was going on. The notion that in the wealthiest nation on earth, we have 600,000 people sleeping outside every night. The idea that, we have the concept of medical bankruptcy.
Homelessness was a huge motivator for the 2016 election. Then why is it that the states with the most amount of homelessness all vote blue? What? Like, it's just... Like, it's so stupid. Like, I feel like I'm watching like grade school analysis. Like, when did the professionals come on and do real political analysis? Like, where are those people at? Do they have jobs in this field? Like, why do I have to listen to amateur hour? Like, it feels like being a professional StarCraft 2 player. And it's like, okay, we're going to get the analysis today. And you bring on like 2 Silver League people who are like, okay, well, today we're going to talk about why this guy won or this guy lost the game. And it's like, what? You guys don't even know what you're talking about. Like, why is it amateur hour right now? Like, he's just narrativizing. Yeah, his perspective is he's a far left, like a super radical socialist communist. So every single thing that happens in an election is going to be through the lens of like whatever weird Marxist class obsessive shit that he wants to talk about as a wealthy, rich capitalist who, you know, makes his money as like a hyper consumerist capitalist in the United States, by the way.
Bankruptcy is an insane phenomenon that doesn't exist in any other OECD nation. Like the fact that 40% of the American public or 60% of the American public doesn't have $400 in emergency spending. Like these are all very real economic anxieties. I'm using that term specifically because it's one thing that people like to hyper focus on that creates volatility, that creates instability.
This is also why I like it when people like give us an example or let's get into the weeds. Let's get into some numbers or some data, because otherwise there's like stories that you tell yourself to. Like, does any of this map onto reality? Like just think about things he said. Like homelessness was the reason why we got crushed in 2016. Well, first of all, Hillary won by millions of votes in the popular vote. Across the swing states, it was like tens of thousands of votes that would have changed the outcome of the election. Hillary was also like the relentless target of Republican smear tactics for literally decades. So I mean, like, and then all the states that are experiencing these problems the most are the states that, you know, swung blue or not swung blue, are solid blue. So what do we even, like, what the fuck are we even talking about here? Like none of this is actually reducible to any reality or any fact of the matter. It's
specifically because, it's one thing that people like to hyper focus on that creates volatility, that creates instability, and it creates a base of angry people. And if the Democratic Party is not addressing that anger and addressing their material problems and earnestly telling them, like, we're going to fix that shit, okay? And the other side is looking at that anger and saying, we're going to channel your anger. You have every right to be angry. And you know who you should be angry at? Those who have less than you. You know who you should be angry at? The working poor, the homeless people that are doing crimes left and right, black and brown people, undocumented migrants that are doing incredible amounts of crimes. They're killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, and trans people. And the Democratic Party only cares about those people, and they don't care about you. And that message resonates with a base of support, not because they are intrinsically evil. That message resonates with a base of support because they're angry, and one of the two major parties is not even remotely interested in addressing that anger and trying to tell them what the solution to that anger actually is and what the real problem is.
Like, it's so funny. Like, it's so funny because, like, Democrats run on and are judged by their policy records, and Republicans run on and are judged by their attack ads. Like, what have Republicans ever done to address any of these fucking problems? Like, did homelessness go away under Donald Trump? Or was the working class exploding and finally, catching up to the middle class and the rich under Trump? Or was, did we do anything about fixing immigration under Trump? No. Did we do anything about alleviate, none of these things get fixed by the Republicans, but I guess they have good ads and good slogans. So for some reason we feel like that's enough.
So I want to break that into kind of how we, the Democratic brand, how we message and all, but also on the policy front. So Joe Biden wins. He tries to kind of build consensus with Bernie. He brings in AOC. He goes to the left on antitrust. He does the Inflation Reduction Act. He does a post-COVID relief bill. He cancels as much debt as he can legally, even though the court is trying to stop him. Mm-hmm. Before the last year.
Ooh, Son's making evil faces right now. Like, oh, don't say anything good about Biden. Oh, he didn't do enough. Oh, he could have done more.
What my view of this is Joe Biden, this consensus Democrat, right? Actually to the right of the consensus for most of his career. Somebody that had to be kind of pulled to where the party was going. Did something extraordinary, which is he adapted, he changed. He governed in a much more progressive way than I think probably than I expected. I hope that you expected.
Oh, absolutely.
And it seems as though whether it's because people didn't feel it or people didn't believe it or the way Democrats talk about policy is ineffective, it didn't seem to matter in terms of how people viewed the Democratic response to the economy, right? They were so angry about inflation. They were angry about a bunch of other issues, and it really didn't matter what Joe Biden said or what Kamala Harris said. They were held responsible.
Or what they did. What they did, right? Because it didn't matter what they did. At the end of the day, the policy didn't matter.
Wondering how you explain that, right? It seems as though Joe Biden tried to listen to this exact critique, and it didn't matter.
So yes and no. I do agree. There are plenty of things that Joe Biden did, like beefing up the NLRB and letting the FTC rain hell upon these monopolies. There's two issues there, though. One is, I think, something that you will agree with as well, that the Democrats don't campaign year-round in the same way that Republicans do on key issues, and they do have a massive communication problem. That could potentially be solved by having a more robust ecosystem and more collaboration with even the likes of yourself and maybe even someone like myself as well. And they need to always be on. They need to always be counter-messaging against the anti-immigration sentiment. I went back and looked at my commentary from February of 2021 when the story of the Customs and Border Patrol Haitian migrants getting whipped by horseback Customs and Border Patrol people, officers was in the news. And I remember talking about how the Republicans are going to keep hitting the immigrants are doing crime note over and over again because that's the one thing that they have. And it's built around a complete falsehood that undocumented migrants are responsible for incredible amounts of crime. It's not correct. There is no data to suggest this. The data actually shows the exact opposite. Undocumented migrants are your neighbors. They contribute to the economy in very meaningful ways, and they very rarely take anything in return. Why is the Democratic Party not pushing this counter narrative? And they never did. Instead of pushing that counter narrative, which is based in truth, and talk about how undocumented migrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens.
Pretty sure they do say this, but then we just get Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley over and over and over and over and over again. Is it Lincoln or Lincoln Riley?
Citizens are, or that fentanyl being trafficked across the U.S. borders are actually not coming in the knapsack of a otherwise law-abiding abuela, but instead it's coming from regular points of entry trafficked by American citizens. 90% of the people that are being apprehended for chemical compounds necessary for fentanyl or direct drugs that they're trafficking across the border are American citizens. Like this does not track with the narrative that people believe, because the narrative is dominated by the right on this issue. They should have been counter-messaging against that, and they should have been putting bills forward in defense of the moves that, for example, Governor Greg Abbott was engaging in Ron DeSantis. I said this even back then, that this is actually a fantastic opportunity for the federal government to show that there is a more tolerant approach, that one, they should have immediately pursued Governor Greg Abbott legally and arrested him for human trafficking and tried to prosecute him for human trafficking.
Oh my God. It's... How much... I'll do up to 30 minutes of this. This is just so cringe. I don't even know who the Pod Save America guys are. They're supposed to be like insightful political commentary, right? Like, is he gonna push back on this idea that, oh yeah, it would have been definitely super electorally popular for the president of the United States to go down and arrest the governor of Texas? Like, does he say anything, or is it just like if I manage to get on this show, is it just gonna be me? I should just like write down the wildest shit in the world. Like, oh yeah, like I definitely think that if Obama or if Biden or if Harris or anybody else, I think we should have just like missile struck probably like the most dense Republican areas in Michigan and Wisconsin. And I think if we just blew those areas up so that the voters were all dead, I think that we would have had a much better chance in the election, because obviously you've got, way fewer people showing up at the polls to vote for Republicans. Is he just gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely some interesting analysis. Yeah, maybe, like, is that...
care if it's a constitutional crisis or not. All of this stuff was insanely messed up, and the federal government dropped the ball. I think the Biden administration dropped the ball by not adding additional funds immediately, sending additional funds immediately to places like Chicago and New York, and to figure out a better way to transition a lot of these people and integrate them into the American labor force. And instead, they just got stuck in this like legal limbo for no reason.
So why is it that, okay, so Republicans say they sort of lay all these problems at the feet of undocumented immigrants. They say they're responsible for crime.
Yeah.
No, they're not. But there are obviously undocumented people. They're people, and some are committing terrible crimes, which they then exploit. But for the most part, these are people that not only are committing crimes at a low rate, but actually are unable to go to the police when they're victims of crime. Whether that's a domestic violence, they can't go to the police, or whether that's just sort of the quotidian mayhem of living in America, or a boss taking advantage of you. They can't go to the police, right?
Yeah.
Then they say, oh, well, they don't pay taxes. Actually, that's not true. They pay into Medicare, they pay into Social Security, and they don't get the benefits of it back. And then they say, well, they're driving up the cost of housing. I do not believe that undocumented people are the reason a house costs $450,000 where it used to cost $350,000.
Yeah, I didn't realize there were executives at BlackRock. The Guatemala migrants are mass purchasing houses and making sure that everyone's a permanent renter. That's the point, though.
It's not BlackRock either, though.
$450,000 where it used to cost $350,000.
Yeah, I didn't realize there were executives at BlackRock. The Guatemala migrants are...
The whole meme that it's institutional buyers that are driving up home prices. Like, there are lots of people, there are not many homes. That's it. There are lots of people, there are not many homes. It's a physics problem at this point. When you have lots of people and not a lot of homes, cost of homes are going to go up, 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 up. No amount of rent control, no amount of molding over institutional investors, no amount of tax credits, no amount of anything is going to fix this. Like, that's it. You get the fuck out of the cities, go the fuck somewhere else, or stop crying about the most retarded fucking policies in the world to alleviate these issues. It's not illegal immigrants. It's not fucking student loan debt. It's you either need more homes, you need to change the zoning, or just fuck off and stop talking about it, because there's nothing else is fixing this problem.
Are mass purchasing houses and making sure that everyone's a permanent renter. That's the point, though. But it's not a trans person that's your landlord. It's not an undocumented immigrant that's your landlord that's raising the cost of rent. It's not, your manager is not an undocumented immigrant.
There are two big problems, though. One is there are a lot of people saying this, and it doesn't break through because there is this right-wing media system that puts out this one story. And the second problem is, like, Democrats really don't have...
Do you think a 5-year waiting list in Sweden with rent control is a better solution, or the one who pays the most? Yeah, I'm sorry. I could be totally wrong. I don't know why I would assume that. I know that's why this either. Some of you are fucking retards. 5-year waiting list. My understanding is if you're on a 5-year wait list in Sweden, it's because you're trying to move to a small city. But if you're on like the list for getting into Stockholm, my understanding is that list is like 20 plus years of a wait at this point. Am I wrong on that? Does anybody know? Because I remember when Melina was talking about like the list that would be for different cities, like you can be on a 5-year wait list, but that's if you're moving to like, I don't even know, for like Gothenburg or whatever. But like if you're looking at Stockholm, you're like decades out from moving to a place like that on like a listed, like a rent controlled unit or whatever.
Of trust on this issue with the people that they're trying to persuade to see it our way, which I think goes to the point you made before, right? Which is, why is it that Donald Trump can meander around the country rambling, committing what in any other era would be, if not like campaign ending, like campaign harming, ridiculous statements.
Gothenburg is 10 years plus. Gothenburg. Oh, I can't pronounce it. You're Swedish shit. Gothenburg is 10 years plus. Okay, never mind.
Gaff, sure. That he can basically be a strategic mess. But Kamala Harris has to hit every point exactly right. She says the wrong.
Yes, thank you. Okay, he's hitting points. He's hitting some things. Okay. Why can't bros? Listen, I hate all of this. It's just I don't know what to say. It's so boring. Like I listen to somebody go on a podcast. It's like, okay, what do you think is going on? I think the problem is definitely the phases of the moon. Oh, talk to me about that. Well, there's a lot of times where the moon is it's out of sync with our economic cycles, and what's happening is like the moon is very bright and it's causing people to spend way less money than they normally would. It's like, okay, well that's definitely a perspective. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, I think that Capricorns are definitely moving the market in a bad way when it comes to our commodity markets and our futures. Okay, that's a perspective. Thank you. Like at any point in any of these shows, do any of these people ever feel an obligation to pick up a book or read a Wikipedia article or read an Investopedia article or just have like or like bring up a poll or cite an actual study, not just like the top sentence of the top part of the abstract, like just anything ever, like just one thing ever, please. It's okay.
Wrong thing on The View, or there's a bad interview from 2020. Those things can be campaign ending. And I think to your point, it goes to something deeper, kind of a lack of a core vision or motivating mission for the current Democratic Party.
Yeah, something that is an understandable, easy to communicate, simple policy that you can put your campaign around. So, like
a $6,000 tax credit for people with children, like a $25,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit, like a I don't know about the business deduction thing. Those tax credits are big deals, by the way. I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe. I don't know how much they motivate the ordinary person. I bought my first house when I was 19 with my now ex-girlfriend. And part of that was due to the fact that Obama had that first-time refundable tax credit. It was $8,000. I remember that tax credit. That was probably one of that and the FHA loan requirements were the reason why I was able to get my first house. The child tax credits are a big deal, too, and they're refundable. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more basic it gets than I will give you money. Here's money. Here's money. I don't know how much more basic it can get than that, but
an understandable, easy to communicate, simple policy that you can.
If it's so boring and stupid, why keep posting on your channel? It's so devoid of any value, and I personally would greatly appreciate never hearing this voice, Hasan's whiny ass voice ever again, because this is what's in the media. Like, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting if like there is a 1 million view episode on Joe Rogan or Pod Save America or whatever, where it's like, oh, like what are the actual impacts that immigration is having on crime or the economies of the southern states? And they bring on like 2 economists to go over like dueling perspectives on this, and then we can like open the literature and read like, oh, okay, what are our lit reviews saying right now? What's our meta-analysis saying right now? What's the latest data from the BLS or from ICE? That would be really interesting and entertaining and fun, because then we could like dig through shit. Instead, it's just like, oh, well, here are some people telling you their story and all of it's not falsifiable. So we can't even say if it's right or wrong. It's just like, okay, whatever.
You can put your campaign around. So we agree on the messaging front a little bit, at least, or the asymmetry of how much.
If Trump kicks out 30% of the construction industry's labor, I'm going to be able to charge $1 million for a roof, and the housing crisis is going to get real true.
Right wing. That is an understandable, easy to communicate, simple policy that you can put your campaign around. So we agree on the messaging front a little bit, at least, or the asymmetry of how much right wing media.
I saw there were around 145 million housing units and 86 million homes in the U.S. How many people do you think should it be per home realistically? Sorry, I'm not trying to gotcha. I'm confused. Maybe the number is wrong. I don't understand what you're asking me. 145 million housing units and 86 million homes in the U.S. How many people do you think should be per home. I don't know. I don't know what the question is. Are you implying that there might be more homes than people in the US right now? The issue is the distribution of those homes. Like if you look up maps of like available housing units maps. Like people will always bring up this number of like, where are, there are more homes available than there are homeless people. This is the affordable housing map. Fuck. If you look up where like all of these empty houses are though, they're like in fucking Wyoming and Montana and Iowa and Arkansas. Like there's not like all these housing units that are available in like LA. Yeah. Owner-occupied housing units. Okay, this isn't. Is there substance behind the idea that first-time buyer credits just end up adding more demand from people who weren't in a position to buy before? Yeah, for sure. Housing credits aren't the best way to alleviate this issue, right? There's a very uncomfortable conversation topic that this is a loser. You shouldn't even try to do this if you're running for office. But there's an uncomfortable topic in the United States that it might also be that Americans are way too spoiled when it comes to square footage than it went compared to Europeans when it comes to living in areas. Anecdotally, I feel like that's true just because I've been through so many European places. But like in America, like the expectation is that at 25 years old, you can buy a house and have like 2,000 plus square footage available to you. Whereas like in when I talk to Europeans in general, like I'm generalizing really hard between Europeans here. But like if I talk to a European, I feel like under 30, I've never heard the expectation from a European that you should be able to buy a house in the city. I don't know if I've ever heard any European in my entire life say that. The idea is always like, oh, well, if you're buying a house, you're either a trillionaire in a city or you're moving out to the country. I don't know if I've ever heard somebody like in England, in Sweden, in Germany or France tell me that like, oh yeah, like we definitely are upset because, by the time we graduate from school, we should be able to buy a house, in Paris or in London, or at least on the outskirts. Like I've just never heard that before. But in the US, that's like an expectation. In the United States of America, we expect 23 years old, you graduate from school, I should be able to buy a house in New York City, in Miami. I should be able to buy a house in Seattle. I can't do it. Like my life is over. It's completely fucked. And it's like, it's completely fucked. But the idea that you should change that expectation is, that would be like electoral suicide. Can I find like average square footage American apartment? And it's gone up, I believe, over the years as well, right? Or at least I've read that a lot. But the average square footage of an American apartment is 916 square feet. Could I find average square footage apartment in France? Please don't give it to me in meters. This is an AI answer, so the average apartment in France is around 600 square feet, with larger cities like Paris often having a smaller average apartment size due to space constraints. This tweet is what you're describing. Somebody in the comments said this was an average house. How is this an average house? When the tea is that serious, you can't be around no one. Oh. I wouldn't say this is an average house, but I would say that like Americans would expect this to be like an upper middle class to middle class house, unironically. Like I think my parents live in a house like this right now. Despite the fact that they're having to draw from 2 different social securities, my dad's full retirement plus disability and my mom's disability, or no, my mom's retirement as well to pay for it. And my dad works full time. Why do you do this? Why do they do this to themselves? I don't know why they do this to themselves. But yeah, this would be like what an American expects. It's just, yeah. But to tell somebody that like, oh, you should like just expect less is yeah, it would be electoral suicide. But
media dominates the ecosystem, the media ecosystem in general, all the way from independent out.
what would you say it is? I mean, in the United States, I would say 20 years ago, you could probably expect to have like, I think you could have like an overground pool, or what would you call it? Not like built into the earth, but like, I don't know, above ground? Would it just be above ground? Like a separate thing you buy? Like I think most American middle class people could probably do that, yeah. Or would expect to be able to do that 20, 30 years ago. Maybe even still today if you're willing to live like in a suburb, not like in a major city or whatever, but...
outlets down to traditional media where, as far as I understand it, 73% now, I think, of all news watchers are watching Fox News. 73%. That's an insane percentage. That's an insane number, right? So outside of that, though,
Huge American Stuff report. Is that not middle class? What does middle class mean? My understanding is just your average 100K a year family is middle class. That would be upper middle class, I believe. But hold on. To be clear, hold on. I'm not saying that if you're an American that this is like a wrong belief. What I'm saying is that Americans believe that their average, like it just goes to our standard of living. I'm just saying that like if you were to talk to an average European and you were to say, hey, when you graduate from, if you graduate from school, you will be able to afford in a city, in a good area, like a 2-bedroom apartment with rent. I think the average European would say, that's awesome. Like, I'm happy. That's really good. But an American will say, I can't get a house. Like, should I kill myself now, or should I wait until I can take more with me, or what? Like, should I suicide bomb my entire existence, or should I like crash a plane? Because it's over for me. I'm 24 years old and I can't buy a house. Like, it's over. Like, it's done. I thought that one kid that I brought on a few weeks ago, remember when he was like, yeah, I'm 25 and I thought I was gonna be able to get a house right after school, and now I'm not gonna, I have to wait till I'm 30, right? And when Americans talk about buying houses, you guys in chat, if you're European, when you think of Americans buying houses, you might think that like, oh wow, Americans are talking about retiring earlier, going up to the country. No. When an American says they want to buy a house, an American is saying they want to buy a house in New York City, in Portland, in Seattle, in LA, in San Francisco, in Miami, in Austin. They want to buy a house like near a major downtown city area, like within like a 20-minute drive. Like that's what an average American's standard of living is. And if it's not hitting that, then like society is literally collapsing. It is tearing apart at the seams that I can't have a 2-bedroom house that's a 20-minute drive from downtown San Francisco. That's where the American standard of living, the American mind is at. Yeah.
I think here is the disagreement that we will have. That while Joe Biden did a bunch of stuff that I agree was positive, it was simply not enough. And that was something that I was always very critical on as well. If you see a homeless person...
Do you support ending single-family zoning? It's a complicated issue. It's a complicated issue, and I have to like dramatically think different. Because like what I want in a house, or where I want to live, or what I want is so, I think, potentially out of touch, or it's not synchronized with like the average American, that I'm not sure if like I have no problem living in an apartment for the rest of my life. I think that's fine. I would rather live closer to people, be able to walk to play. Like after I moved to Glendale from suburbia, I will never ever live in a suburb for the rest of I'll never do that ever. I would much rather rent an apartment where I can walk out onto the street and do things than like, I need to go to the store. Time to like pack up my car. Pack a few changes of clothes, make sure I've got like a new thing of toothpaste, and like, okay, like here we go, off to Walmart or whatever, 20, 30 minutes, and then an hour, 2 hours for the whole event. Like, I don't know, just like the first time I moved to a city from Omaha, it was just like, it radically warped my perspective, or changed my perspective on the types of places that I would want to live. Yeah. But I don't think I think for a lot of Americans, I'll say this even though it doesn't matter. It sounds like I speak with derision, but I don't really. Like, I understand different people want different things. It's not like bad or worse. Like, it's not like what I want is the good stuff and other Americans are stupid. But for whatever reason, like Americans, the dream or the desire is I want to live in a suburb where I can, go outside and talk to my neighbor and have like my own space. And I mean, I can recognize that to some extent. Like, I remember when I was 19 and I bought my first home, I was like, I'm never, ever, ever living in an apartment again. Fuck apartments. Like, I like having my own space. I can fuck my walls up if I want. I can make as much noise as I want. I don't have to worry about fucking neighbors or any other bullshit. But I've also I've seen the downsides of homeownership too. And one of the annoying things about talking to young people that fetishize homeownership is none of you motherfuckers know any of the downsides, which is so annoying. I debated that one guy, a couple months ago, and I talked about the liability of homeownership and how you could file bankruptcy if you fall behind on your house payments. And everybody in chat was spamming oh, out of touch, doesn't realize it, millionaire doesn't think these aren't real problems. And then as soon as I say yeah, well, my family, we had our house foreclosed on, and my family went through Chapter 11, Chapter 7, multiple bankruptcies, and they were like, oh, you're too emotionally invested. You don't understand. You're too emotionally involved in this. That's why you have such a bad opinion. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you lose. Yeah, I don't know. There's ups and downs to everything. At this point, I think as a rich person, I wouldn't mind owning a home, but if I was a middle class person again, renting is just so much more convenient. I don't like having to deal with major repairs. When you live in a cold place, and anybody that lives in a cold place, that feeling when the first really cold night rolls in and you wake up and you're shivering and you go downstairs and you're like, my thermostat is set to 74, and right now it reads 62, and you're like, fuck, my shit is fucked. Now I gotta call, and it's not only that you have to call somebody to repair it. There's a competency crisis in this country. It's not even that you call somebody, it's that you're gonna have to call him fucking 3 times. If you call him once, he comes out. He's like, oh, it's just the pilot light is, I don't even know what the fuck a pilot light is, but that's always the first trip. They're like, oh, just the pilot light. Okay. All right, dude. Well, here's a $400 bill. Thanks. I don't know what the pilot light is. I don't know how you lit it. I don't know why it's costing me $400 to pay you to do this, but whatever. Here, call us again or something. Okay, so they light that. And then that night, now from 62, now your apartment is 64. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And then they come back and then they'll tell you what's really wrong. Like, oh, we looked at this and the heat exchanger, flux solus capidium is actually broken. And it's like, okay, well, can you replace that? And he's like, well, actually, this unit is out of manufactured warranty, and they don't make the solidarium material needed for these anymore. So you actually have to replace your entire fucking heating system. But I can do a patch on this part, and it'll only cost you $900 as opposed to the $6,000 to replace it on. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, do you want to just fuck me now, or you're going to come back with your friends and all fuck me together, or, yeah, leave the plug in now and come back later. Just kidding. Gee, fuck, dealing with housing shit is a lot. Okay. And I'm not saying that there aren't pros or cons. Okay. There are pros and cons on both sides, but holy fuck, people fetishize the fuck out of different aspects of homeownership. And I'm like, listen, there are good aspects to it. There are bad aspects to it. Just recognize both. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Jesus.
And you chuck them 2 pennies, and they're sitting on the corner of the street. Yeah, technically, their material wealth improved by a decent percentage, but he's still going to be mad at you because you.
Home improvement is a bonus for a lot of homeowners. I like fixing my shit and learning to fix shit. I agree with you to some extent, but you have to understand that that's a privileged take. Okay, and I'm not using that as a bad word. I also like that. But I like that from the perspective of I have the time to learn it and enjoy it. And that's why it's fun for me. It's not fun to try to learn your own shit when you're working doubles or grave, or you have a lot of hours, you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the, it's different when you're learning something for fun versus learning and you barely have the time to do it. And yeah, man, when you work a lot also, the time shit is, this is so weird. Of all the stuff, there's a whole bunch of little things about being poor or working class that were traumatizing. Like if you wake up and you have no messages and calls, you're like, did they finally turn my phone off again because you haven't paid your bill? Or there's just there's a whole bunch of little stupid things like that are traumatizing. I think the worst feeling for me was anytime you got home, the thing that I remember was anytime you would get home and you would have to go to sleep almost immediately and then wake up and go right back to work. Oh man, those were the most psychologically taxing things. So if you have to go home and you're learning how to fix a toilet and you spend an hour on it, and right after you finish this project, you have to go to sleep, and you know that you're going to sleep just so that you can wake up, just so that you can go right back to work, just so that you can get home, and then maybe work on it again, and then go right back to sleep, and then wake up and go back. That shit not a good feeling. So all that to say, I do agree. Like the studio stuff that I learned downstairs, that's fun for me. I enjoy that. It's work, but it's also enjoyable. And like learning how to fix things around the house right now is enjoyable for me. But just because I have the luxury of having the free time to do it, but when you're like taxed at the end of like everything you can do, and all your time is going into surviving, I feel like it's significantly less fun. But that's just my feeling. Getting that collect or disconnect home visit from some electric worker is traumatizing. Oh, I've never had them visit. Usually they just mail you over and over again and you just ignore all the mail. And then they just turn your shit off.
You see a homeless person and you chuck them 2 pennies and they're sitting on the corner of the street. Like, yeah, technically their material wealth improved by a decent percentage. But he's still going to be mad at you because you just gave him 2 pennies. Why doesn't the homeless person understand that their situation is much better? That is not an effective way to communicate to Americans that, like, no, you don't understand. Inflation is actually under control, that the economy is rebounding, even if it's objective truth, because most Americans don't understand what inflation is, and they don't understand that prices are not going to go down in that circumstance. And besides that, and I factor this is not just the vibe session communications, but I'm also talking about specifically like even the IRA or many of these other.
How did you not become a nicotine fiend during your poor arc? Honestly, I've never liked cigarettes. I tried smoking one time when I was a kid and I hated it. Even when I tried weed as a kid, I hated it because weed sucked in Nebraska, bro. Smoking weed, you're like dying and you don't even get high. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. You'd be addicted now with Zins? I don't know, maybe. I was always petrified of all drugs. I was a super successful result of the DARE program. I didn't drink. I didn't do any drugs whatsoever because I thought all of it was going to like rot my brain and make my fucking... Oh, and I was very protective of my mind. For some reason, I don't even know why. I valued my intelligence a lot, even though I fucking sucked at... Well, at least at homework, I guess. Yeah, so I was always scared that, like, how many people learned when you were drinking alcohol as a kid that the brain cells, here's the thing we learned growing up, brain cells never come back. And when you drink alcohol, you kill brain cells. So every time you drink, you're basically like permanently subtracting from your IQ. I'm like, okay, yeah. My wife has ADHD and THC has literally zero effect on her. Could you be the same? There might be some small percentage of the people where THC doesn't have an impact on them. THC definitely has an effect on me, though. It was just as a child growing up in Nebraska, just the weed sucked. I'm sorry if you're younger, if you're like 25 or younger, you're not going to understand. You don't even know what bad weed is. You have no idea. The last time I had bad weed, I think it was in Germany because, man, Europe sucks for drugs. But nowadays, if somebody passes you a joint in America, you touch it and you're already fucking halfway high. Okay, this shit is so potent. I don't know if they got like BlackRock, scientists that are manufacturing crazy research, Walter White fucking strains of weed or whatever. Or my tolerance is also really low too. But yeah.
But I'm also talking about specifically like even the IRA or many of these other like parts of the legislative agenda that Biden put forth that was more progressive than I expected, more progressive than even the Obama administration in many respects. But one, they didn't do a good job of communicating any of those victories, in my opinion. They did not actually like go to the media regularly to show these victories and to showboat and gloat a little bit. Two, a lot of that was also held up in gridlock because we didn't whip votes well enough any of those victories, but even the Obama administration in many respects.
Let me slow this down so I can get more properly triggered.
That Biden put forth that was more progressive than I expected, more progressive than even the Obama administration in many respects. But one, they didn't do a good job of communicating any of those victories, in my opinion. They did not actually like go to the media regularly to show these victories and to showboat and gloat a little bit.
I mean, I think they tried to, but there's just no friendly media apparatus. Like, the media is just there to roast you. That's what's happening right now on this show. It's happening right now on this show. Like,
two, a lot of that was also held up in gridlock because we didn't whip votes well enough within.
The Democrats didn't whip votes well enough? Wait, what? What?
Within our own party, and I think that there was...
Hey, Dusty, I'm stuck in traffic on I-45 going towards Dallas. Say something to help me get through this. How are you donating to me while in traffic on YouTube? Good luck. Don't crash, homie.
A lot of punishments that should have been dished out to the likes of Joe Manchin and the likes of Kirsten Sinema, rather than... What? Because we didn't whip votes well enough within our own party, and I think that there was a lot of punishments that should have been dished out to the likes of Joe Manchin and the likes of Kirsten Sinema.
Isn't Kirsten Sinema not even... Is she not? Did she switch parties? And isn't Joe Manchin like not even running again? What are you threatening these people with? Like what? Like realistically, you've got a guy who's running in one of the reddest like some of the reddest, most unelectable districts ever. Like literally, where is the where is the primaries? It wasn't even close. You're never. What are you threatening these people with? Hold on, I'm sure Hasan is about to tell us.
Rather than offering a Green senator an opportunity to be a prominent fixture of the Democratic Party, I think that a lot more punishments should have been issued towards these people that
like
use
what?
the moment in the spotlight to specifically play the role of a rotating villain in the Democratic Party, which has happened time and time again, all the way from Joe Lieberman to
Is Cinema in as bad a district as Joe? I don't know as much about her district. Cinema was Nevada, right? Am I making this up? Hold on. Or is it Arizona? Arizona. I read this once, and I don't know much about the electoral histories, but I've heard that Arizona and Nevada are both like crazy weird states that just politically they're very, 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 very weird. So you can't there's not a reliable turnout. You're saying district, but you mean state. Sorry, state, because they're senators. There's just very weird political environments. I don't know how true that is. I just remember reading that a lot, and that you can't rely on any weird in what way. Just in that the things that these people vote on, whether they swing from one way to the other, like where their political compass is in these states is just very strange. Hard to predict and don't map onto the rest of American politics cleanly. But okay.
the Maggie Hassans of the
Destin, he's correct about the communicating victories part. Dems need to constantly draw out to Americans what they did and what Republicans did. Yeah, but here's what I don't know how, because I run into the same issue with you fucking retards, okay? I don't know how the Democrats can communicate victories without getting the out of touch thing. Because if a Democrat comes up and like, hey, we did all these good things for you guys, then everybody says, oh, you think things are good right now? Well, you're out of touch. They're not good. They're really bad. You're out of touch. You're out of touch. You're out of touch. So I don't know what the signaling on that needs to be.
Play the role of a rotating villain in the Democratic Party, which has happened time and time again, all the way from Joe Lieberman to the Maggie Hassans of the world, the Kirsten Sinemas, the Joe Manchins of the world, and the problem solvers caucuses within Congress in general. These guys need to get whipped into shape.
Yeah, I wish I believed that. I just wish I believed that. But think about it. But I just I don't know how much more you could have gotten out of Joe Manchin or Kirsten Sinema. Like Joe Manchin basically was telegraphing the whole time, like I'll walk away. And Joe Biden kept him in the tent. That got judges through. That got the Inflation Reduction Act through.
This guy's name is Joe something, right? Why is he Joe Lovett? Why is he talking to his son like he's like his equal here politically, like entertaining this conversation? Like this is true. What were you ever threatening Manchin with ever? By the way, at the height of the disagreements with the Democratic Party, somebody can find. I wish I had all these saved. I just need to keep looking things up when I make references, so I make sure I'm not becoming untethered. I believe Manchin was the most popular senator. I think Manchin was the most popular senator in the entire United States. I don't trust the Statista website. This says Joe Manchin, one of the least popular senators. I wonder what the year is. I wonder if I think it was during the fighting. Even as Mr. Manchin is one of the most unpopular senators of the country, his approval rating in West Virginia increased by 4 points since the first quarter of the year, and his disapproval rating declined by 7 points. I think that at the height of his fighting with the Democrats, I think it was the most popular senator in the United States of America. I wish somebody should look this up for me and find this for me to see if I'm making this up. Also, I want to make sure that we have to go not nationally, but at least locally, like in West Virginia, obviously, because nationally it doesn't matter what you're running in one state. But so here it's talking about ditching the agenda. His disapproval rating went from 60 to 48% since last quarter. That's a 12-point swing. But that was just for GOP voters. But yeah, it's John Lovett, not Joe Lovett. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. But
I do not believe, I think we agree on a lot. I just don't believe that there is a version of the Joe Biden presidency that could have been more successful on legislative policy. Don't see that.
You're not going to appreciate what I'm about to say then.
Hit me.
Use the IRS and also the SEC and maybe even the FTC to investigate as to why Joe Manchin's brother owns a coal mine and whether there's a conflict of interest there.
He's giving this was the crazy jank take. or was this the Jimmy Dore take or the Kyle Kalinske take? This might have been the Cenk take. That Cenk needs to sick the DOJ and the SEC. I'm trying to remember which one of these guys. It might have been Kalinske that said this.
Investigate why Joe Manchin's daughter is selling pharmaceutical products to the state of West Virginia when Joe Manchin is directly at odds with any sort of bill that passes that would lower the cost of pharmaceuticals.
So you want the president
Yes.
to politicize these agencies
Yes.
and use them to go after people?
Because you want to know why?
Tell me why. Hey, tell me why.
Because they're doing it.
I wouldn't even necessarily, I don't even in principle, I wouldn't have a problem with this if there was any inkling, like if we had an inkling that something wrong was actually happening here. But is there? Like, are there accusations or are there credible accusations that something wrong is happening here? Because if it's just like, we're just going to investigate you to be annoying because fuck you, then what's the point? Because you're not even, what are you going to do? You investigate them and find nothing? Now you look even worse, right?
At the behest of not only the American people, their interest, but they're also, and this is probably going to frustrate everyone in this audience, but here's the thing that I get very frustrated about.
Wide range of listeners across a broad ideological spectrum.
Here's what really frustrates me
What frustrates
about the way the Democratic Party operates. They love norms, they love institutions, they love civility, they care about bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship, as though that is something that
some do, some don't.
Yeah, sure, but for
I wish that I hate that. I hate politics. Fuck. I'm going to throw all my Vive answer and play video games. We are abandoning politics. 2026, okay? The year we stop politics forever. I wish there was an easy way or analogy or story or metaphor to describe when you have this vehicle for a great thing and all these horrible people that want to ride in your vehicle and do horrible things with it. Freedom of speech is one of the most abused concepts. They're like, freedom of speech, like that's the best thing ever. Freedom of speech is like, oh, cool, you like freedom of speech too? Yeah, I do. And then you take off the mask and it's like, oh, I just want to lie with impunity. Oh, so you don't actually care about free speech. And you would even get rid of it to some extent if you were in office, right? And it's like, yeah, but like I really like it right now. Somebody posted an edgy quote a while ago. Can somebody remember it? It's like, it's such a good quote. It's so edgy and it's such a good quote. Like, when I'm not in power, like I use your norms against you, but when I'm in power, I would violate your norms or something. Somebody knows this quote in chat. Somebody will give it to me. But when Hasan talks about like weaponizing agencies here to go after people, he's not like, Lil Bro's not on our team. He's not talking about weaponizing these norms or weaponizing to fight against these norms to beat the Republicans. He's talking about weaponizing these norms to destroy liberalism. Lil Bro is not on our team here. Oh, yeah, somebody found it. Good job. When I am weaker than you, I ask you for freedom because that is according to your principles. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom because that is according to my principles. That's a good edgy quote. Frank Herbert. Can somebody give me that quote with like the Joker in the background? I'm just kidding. For those of you who are either European or viewers of color that might not understand, the Joker is the most important role model for millennial and Gen Z white men. Okay, you guys don't get it. I understand you don't get it. He's like Tupac and Biggie to black people. That's the Joker to us, to white people. Okay, you wouldn't understand. Okay, you wouldn't get it, and we don't expect you to get it. But that's just our guy. All right. That's just our guy. Do you see the Joker 2 thoughts? Nope. So I have none. You said earlier a family making $100K a year is upper middle class, but St. Louis Fed lists the mean family income at $135K. You mean median, right? But let me check. The real median household income in the United States lists the mean family income as $135K. The median household income is, I see $80K here. What are you talking about? Or did you link me the wrong thing, or? Wrong link. The real mean family income. Oh. I don't know if mean is as good of a measure because I don't know if this is weighted too much like towards big outliers. Is median really truly just the middle point in the set of data? Is that actually what a median is, or is there a more sophisticated way of doing it? Real median family income. Wait, hold on. Is 100K. Real median. What's the difference between family income and household income? CPIU. Okay, that's not telling me what it is. Huh. I've complained about this before, and I will continue to complain about this in case any of my fans are in influential positions of power. I really wish that every single chart and graph and government thing on the internet had like simple breakdowns at the bottom to explain things. I feel like it would be really helpful, but you know. Thank you. We needed the Joker one. Thank you.
They care about bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship, as though that is something that
some do, some don't.
Yeah, sure. But for the most part, the broad communication coming out of the Democratic Party is that these are the things that they care about. These are the top line issues. We got to protect democracy. We got to preserve our institutions.
Family income is higher than household income because families have more people who are at prime earning age. Many households include people who are young or elderly who may not work. Family income is higher than household income. Households include people who are young or elderly. Families don't include people who are young or elderly. You need to look at the historical changes in economic inequality, not just GDP growth or stock market performance. You can't claim the economy is doing well when you're continuing to see the kinds of economic inequality that we see in the United States. So you're permabanned. Goodbye. I don't disagree with the point, but I don't know why you're here spamming the most obvious talking points and things I've never said in my entire life. I don't know if I've ever said, oh my God, but we're doing so much better. Look at our GDP or look at the stock market. These have never, ever been bare metrics that I've used to say whether or not we're doing better. It's generally we're looking at things like real incomes or real incomes across different cohorts or other types of metrics. So I don't know why you just came in here and copy pasted the most basic bitch 22-year-old, you know, just picked up my double frappe latte chino or whatever from Starbucks, and now you're copy pasting these, you know, same talking points that you heard from some retarded fucking podcaster, probably from Hasan. And I don't even know if Hasan uses talking points that are these old, that are that old or stupid. Okay, fuck you.
The problem is the other side doesn't give a shit about that. Mm-hmm. So I think I want a Democratic Party that mocks civility. Mm-hmm.
What about purchasing power parity? I don't know why people use CPI over PPP now. I would have to look into the strengths of both. The strengths of both. I wouldn't be able to tell you honestly. I'm not sure. Wait, hold on 1 second. Peer back. For hamster hawk. 1 second. I can't convince my parents to downsize from their 3BD, 4BA. Oh, Jesus. 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom house. My mom is winded from going upstairs, but explained to me their mortgage is cheaper than renting in their area. I think people getting people to downsize from a house is also almost impossible. It's very, very, very difficult because people think that like once you bought a house, if you downsize, it's like a failure. Like people just won't do it, which is very frustrating. If the government stats workers in this community keep their jobs in a post-Elon fuck federal government, I'm sure we will take that into account. Okay.
They care about bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship, as though that is something that
some do, some don't.
Yeah, sure. But for the most part, the broad communication coming out of the Democratic Party is that these are the things that they care about. These are the top line issues.
Okay. Sorry. Let me come back. Why does the military profit talking point keep coming up? Because if you don't understand how government works, if you don't understand how companies work, if you don't understand it sounds compelling. Like, oh, people would want war to happen so they can get paid money for doing war, despite the fact that I guess it sounds reasonable if you don't know anything about anything. most conspiracy theories are like stem from just a lack of understanding of the world, of not understanding how anything works, right? Okay. Russian nuclear missiles are hidden for the most part. They use mobile missile launchers. America has a bunch of silos to absorb a Russian strike. You're correct. I don't know if that's true. I could be wrong, but I don't know if you can move, if there are mobile ICBM missile launching stations. Maybe there are. I just truly don't know. But maybe there are. But regardless, it doesn't impact any of the things I said with subs, but okay.
Really frustrates me
What frustrates
about the way the Democratic Party operates. They love norms. They love institutions. They love civility. They care about bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship, as though that is something that
some do, some don't.
Yeah, sure. But for the most part, the broad communication coming out of the Democratic Party is that these are the things that they care about. These are the top line issues. We got to protect democracy. We got to preserve our institutions. The problem is the other side doesn't give a shit about that. So I think I want a Democratic Party that fights for me and others who are marginalized, other people that like desperately need help. And I know that the Republican Party is never going to do that.
Wait, what?
The broad bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship, as though they love norms. They love institutions. They love civility.
I'm sorry, I'm getting back into what were we talking about?
They care about bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship, as though that is something that
some do, some don't.
Yeah, sure. But for the most part, the broad communication coming out of the Democratic Party is that these are the things that they care about. These are the top line issues.
Yeah, but like, what are they going to talk about? Are they going to talk about what like got accomplished as a result of that? Because lots of legislation got passed. It wasn't just like norms and bipartisanship. Like there were real things that got passed as a result of this, right?
We got to protect democracy. We got to preserve our institutions. The problem is the other side doesn't give a shit about that. So I think I want a Democratic Party that fights for me and others who are
fights for you. How? Like tweets out aggressive things. Like it's so crazy because he's talking about how like they need to make real world impacts, and then he's like, "But I don't care about legislation. I want them to be meaner on Twitter." Or, like, what does he mean? What is he talking about? I'm sure John will ask him for an example, for one specific example, please.
Are marginalized, other people that like desperately need help. And I know that the Republican Party is never going to do that. I'm not one of those guys who's like, oh, well, you know, at least the Republicans are kind of listening to what I have to say or are, communicating, channeling the anger that I feel. Like, I don't care. They're charlatans. They're significantly worse than the Democratic Party. I don't like the Democratic Party for their closeness to the Republican Party. I want them to be a party that actually fights for the working class, for all Americans.
Like, these statements are unacceptable. Like, you should be called out and derided for making these types of statements. Like, oh, they're so close to the Republican Party. I wish they'd actually fight for workers. Like, what? The what is it? The NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, like that didn't count, or the child tax credit, like that didn't count, or like investment into infrastructure, stuff like that. The American Rescue Plan, like none of these things counted as like they're not actually fighting for what? They're just like signaling it, like the Republicans do. Like what? Like why would you even let somebody get away with saying this? This is so cucked. It's such a cucked opinion to have.
Communicating, channeling the anger that I feel.
And it's just as cucked to sit here and let somebody have this opinion with no pushback. Maybe he's about to push back on it though. Hold on.
Like, I don't care. They're charlatans. They're significantly worse than the Democratic Party. I don't like the Democratic Party for their closeness to the Republican Party. I want them to be a party that actually fights for the working class, for all Americans unconditionally, regardless of ideology. And you can't do that through bipartisanship with an otherwise like hostile entity.
Except Biden literally did exactly that through bipartisanship. Biden literally said, I'm not just a president for Democrats, I'm a president for all Americans. And then he literally passed bipartisan legislation, well, the Congress did, right, with him supporting it. Like, so what is the...
That is the Republican Party, and I think there is a lot of hypocrisy there, and the and hypocrisy that people can see. Hypocrisy is the easiest thing that they can understand. You can't say that you guys are hypocrisy there as like hostile entity that is the Republican Party, and I think there is a lot of hypocrisy there, and the and hypocrisy that people can see. Hypocrisy is the easiest thing that they can understand. You can't say that these guys are fascists, these guys are racist for 8 years for wanting to build a wall, and then turn around and straight up tell Anderson Cooper in that town hall, well, maybe the wall is a good idea, and I want to build it myself. I'm going to be the border czar. I'm going to be the border.
Oh my God! Like this false equivalency of immigration policy. Like this is also why people like Hasan need to be ejected from the left. Like no Democrat was ever in favor of open borders immigration. Everybody should come through. There was that fucking meme quote of Kamala. Wasn't this in year one? The do not come. Do not come. Wasn't that like a year one quote? It wasn't something that just came 3 or 4 years later. I feel like it was. Hold on. Yeah, 2021. This was literally the first, like, this was right at the start of the administration.
Party. You can't do that. Americans look at that and go, so you're admitting that you were just lying for the past 8 years.
Yeah, you think Americans look at the complicated interplay between stated border policy, between what the actual immigration policy is, like 95% of Americans couldn't even tell you what DACA is. Let alone like the policy implications, like what branch of government it comes from, like what it actually does. Like, sorry. Hold on. John's about to give some amazing pushback on all of this. I pre-watched, and he's about to give the best takedown. He's going to say, well, Hasan, do you really think that Democrats are the same legislatively when it comes to Republicans? And what about all the legislation they did pass? And why are you telling them that they need to signal on all these issues when Republicans haven't done anything, but they signal on these issues? And let's see.
Well, it's like, again, though, it's like, I think actually, like, you look at.
Fuck, hold on. Sorry. I wish Destiny would explain to us the weapons manufacturing talking point and how it's wrong instead of hand-waving it and calling his opponents dumb, because it's making me think he doesn't have an answer. The reason why it's dumb is because these companies, holistically, are just not very big companies, right? If you imagine a government that's evil enough to cause war just for some weapons manufacturers to make money, right? Like if you look at, who are the three largest private military contractors, USA. Lockheed, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman. And Boeing does a lot of non-military stuff as well, right? These three companies combined, right, have a market cap, meaning the total value of all their outstanding stock, okay, or of all the stock, right? The total valuation, I guess, of the company, you'd say, is 200. So we got 125 billion here, 71 billion here. What is that, like 320 billion dollars between all of these companies. In what world is an evil dictator taking companies like this and engaging us in like world warfare when like Apple's stock alone is like 10 times? Just Apple alone is 3.6 trillion. When war will decrease the value of all of these other companies, right? Wars do not increase the stock market, broadly speaking. They don't increase the value in all your companies. Why would these relatively small companies in the grand scheme of things have so much sway over American politicians? It doesn't make any sense, right? What if it was the case that they were so evil that they're thinking about this, wouldn't it make more sense that like the CEO of like Apple and Facebook and Amazon, wouldn't these companies hire literal assassins to murder our military contractors and like, sorry, you guys want to build the F-35? We're actually going to kill you because we don't want any weapons of war to be made, because we actually want, we just want to like have big economies that just grow and grow and grow, because war hurts our bottom line, right? Like a bad month for Apple would wipe out more market capitalization than like the top 5 military contractors combined in the United States. Just these companies are just not that large in the grand scheme of our economy. And the idea that they alone are dictating the direction, and this is even just looking at just like revenues and profits and percentage owned or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even make any sense that these are the companies that would control everything. If you wanted to say something like, I think that Amazon and Apple are secretly controlling the United States because of politician interests, I'm going to say we still need evidence, but at least that makes sense. Like, sure, there's so much money that goes through these entities. Like, damn, they can, like, I would imagine if they wanted to influence or exert control like that, sure. You think Boeing is going to fucking outspend? Like, Apple probably loses in waste or mismanagement, like Boeing's, like, entire profit line, like 10x over. Like, it's probably not even close. So just the idea that there needs to be some active military conflict that they're constantly goading the rest of the world into in ways that would, by the way, completely and utterly destroy these companies. If any of it ever got out, the companies would just be completely obliterated, right? If any of this ever got out at any part, right? The idea that they're the ones with the levers on the control of all U.S. foreign policy, it's naive and simplistic and stupid. And it doesn't even make sense when you look at the scale of all the numbers. It doesn't even make sense. But LOL, do you think Amazon and Google don't have military contracts? No, I didn't think that any of these companies work together with any of these people at all. Do you think that war, broadly speaking, benefits companies like Apple and Google and Facebook and Amazon? Do you think that these companies are generally benefiting from, like, Destiny is so naive. Yeah, I know. The idea that there's like these secret shady dudes in fucking caves behind the scenes that are just pushing the buttons on all of our international warfare, that's such a less naive position. That's such a well-informed position. And it totally makes sense too, right? That's why the United States was so actively involved in military conflict across the world after Iraq. It's not like our Democratic leaders responded largely to the Democratic pressure. I was like, ooh, shit, we need to like pull back significantly and like switch to drones or some other bullshit because it's so it's not like they were responsive or anything, you know, to the leadership. No, of course not. We were definitely, that's why in 2014, when Russia invaded Crimea, you know, we were shipping weapons and drones and historically huge amounts of warfare. That's why we had boots on the ground in Syria. And that's why we had boots on the ground. Like, yeah, okay. But, you know, whatever. You know what? Think what you want. I don't care. When you get like any fucking evidence of any of these things ever happening at all, then come talk to me. But until then, it's just like baseless conspiracy theories. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even really make sense if you look at like how much money, like all of these organizations are even working with. It just doesn't make any sense. But you know, not just about. I don't care.
You're admitting that you were just lying for the past 8 years.
Well,
okay, sorry.
You can understand. You can't say that these guys are fascists. These guys are racist for 8 years for wanting to build a wall and then turn around and straight up tell Anderson Cooper in that town hall, well, maybe the wall is a good idea and I want to build it myself. I'm going to be the border czar. I'm going to be the border.
Like, there's not even like that. Like, are you saying we're copying the Republican immigration strategy? Like, it's so stupid. Okay.
Party. You can't do that. Americans look at that and go, so you're admitting that you were just lying for the past 8 years.
Well, it's like, again, though, it's like, I think actually, like you look at somebody like Dan Osborne, right, who ran so far ahead of the Democratic Party, ran as this economic populist, but one of the things he had to do to get there was kind of be tough on immigration. And actually, like, I think part of it goes back to like, if people felt like they knew, like in their bones, like Bernie Sanders being to me like the signal example, like, you know what Bernie's about. You know what he's for. You know what motivates him. You know what he cares about. Same thing for Trump. You know when there are issues he doesn't give a fuck about, and there's issues he really, really cares about. Immigration is one, trade, right? Like, you know the things that like that have been anti-crime, whatever. That there are things that have been in Donald Trump's like kind of brain slowly losing plasticity that are like kind of solid in there. And for Bernie, you know, like we know why he's in politics, and that gives a politician the space to kind of challenge orthodoxies in the party or kind of run counter to it to signal to the people you need to signal to. Now, like, you know, you say, oh, you can't call them fascist and then also work with them. Like, yeah,
but also somebody link me the voting and wait, am I fucking... Hold on. Oh, this is for Arizona and Florida. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought I was losing my mind. I was like, wait, is Bernie Sanders not a senator from Vermont? What the fuck? Okay, it wasn't showing the race over here. Sorry, Jesus. I guess because people keep saying like Bernie Sanders, but like it seems like Kamala Harris outperformed Bernie Sanders in Vermont. So I don't know where this idea, maybe they think he would have outperformed in the rest of the country, but not his own home state. Like Bernie Sanders is held up as such this like godlike figure that would have just thrashed these elections. And I don't know if there's any reason to actually believe that.
Now, like, you know, you say, oh, you can't call them fascist and then also work with them. Like, yeah, but at the same time, I just don't know what to do with this nuance. Joe Biden, like, I am glad Joe Biden did the Inflation Reduction Act and an infrastructure bill and a gun bill and the CHIPS Act and a bunch of other stuff. I'm glad he was able to do all of those things. I'm glad that he was able to use his kind of like moderate brand, whatever, to kind of bring people in and get some stuff done. Like, I don't think the country is better off if he didn't do those things. So, like, you described it as hypocrisy. Like, it's compromise. Like, politics requires compromise.
The Republican Party rarely ever compromises. They're uncompromising. You only have to beat them.
But that's not true, though. Right?
This is why one of the things I don't like about these conversations. So, like, I don't know, man. It's just boring to me. Like, Hasan just said a bunch of wild and crazy shit, and you didn't really address any of it. And then you gave an opinion that is like 180 of what he just said, but you're not really addressing the fact that you guys fundamentally disagree on every single possible thing. But like, what is the point of like, imagine a guy's like, yeah, we need to just enslave all women, and I think we should probably like murder 50% of them just to keep the other 50% in line. And then you're like, Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but like I think it is good that we're fighting for abortion rights and stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, but also like I think like murdering every woman above like the age of like 35, so we keep them younger, and you're like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but like I think that I think that we focus too much sometimes on the trans. Like you're not connecting at all with what's being said. I hate these types of conversations. It's just so hollow and empty and pointless and boring and stupid and like an insult to the viewer and the landscape. Like we're not engaging with anything that's being said. It's just like bleh, like platitude. Here's your platitudes. Here's my platitudes. Here's your platitudes. Here's my platitude. Like what are we even saying here? Like
So like you described it as hypocrisy. Like it's compromise. Like politics requires compromise.
The Republican Party rarely ever compromises. They're uncompromising. You only have to beat them.
But that's
And
not
the
true
only
though, right?
time-
Like I agree with that on Trump, but that's just not true. Like they did compromise, right? They like
okay, at least he's bringing up some stuff here a little. Okay, that's good at least.
there are plenty of people on the Republican side that were furious at Republican senators for going along with some of these Biden bills, right?
Yeah.
Like those are people that did compromise.
Yeah, there is a million examples, however, of Republicans that are obstructionists that I'm sure you
Yeah, of
also
course.
love presenting, that go back to their town halls and lie about all the money that they brought back home
Absolutely.
from the bills that they voted against. So ultimately, we now know that political polarization is set in a way that never really existed in American history until the last couple of decades, right? I think that parties originally were more geopolitically focused on their immediate needs, like statewide needs. So you saw this dramatic shift, and now the Republican Party, especially with Mitch McConnell under the Obama administration, showcased that like permanent obstructionism is not punishable, and that gridlock is always considered the administrative party's problem. If there's any sort of gridlock, it's the fault of the leadership, and Americans hate gridlock.
Yeah.
That's kind of the reason why I was talking about Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, because that was a massive moment where like they actually ended up protecting the Republican Party because they were never going to vote for these bills anyway, and now the entire conversation was about like madness within the Democratic Party's caucuses, like they can't get their ducks in a row, right? Like that was genuinely frustrating to me because it's like if you would whip your votes immediately, then you could showcase that the Republican Party is standing in the way of progress. But that's just like that is legislative minutia. What is more important to talk about
It's
is
a 50-50 Senate, dog. Like Jesus Christ. Like these people that have no political power, no political representation, no real say in anything anywhere. Like, yeah, so the Democrats like just sucked at managing their shit. Like, it's like, bro, it's a 50-50 Senate. Holy fuck. Like, holy shit. Your expectations are out of this world. Just whip votes, bro. Just go whip the votes. Like, just go tell them they have to vote this way before they like this childlike understanding of like, well, Manchin and Sinema just got out of bed. Shoot them like 20 text messages saying like, hey, bro, like push Y to vote yes on this legislation real fast before you have any idea what's going on. Like,
is broad, sweeping legislative changes or a agenda that might even come across as bold and radical in the interest of the American working class. Joe Biden said he wanted to do the public option. Everybody knew that wasn't real. He never talked about it after. He used the public option. He slotted that in the primaries when the party was primed to the Bernie left, and everyone was like, trying to communicate their own populist version of what Bernie was doing. And Joe Biden won the primaries and effectively tabled the discussion about healthcare. This is still a major problem, regardless. Like,
yeah, but who? So like, what? So he should ask him. Okay, this is where John should be. Okay, wait. So you think that Biden should have went further to the left? He should have said, "Oh, we're going to bring back the public option, or we're going to start signaling on like we're going to go even more extreme on public healthcare." When the Republicans are constantly virtue signaling and lighting shit up on inflation and on shit like on like government spending, and when you couldn't even get support for a public option, let alone the further to the left that he wants to go. Like this would have been the plan that would have brought more Americans to vote for. I don't know. I'm not convinced. Like Democrats didn't have the support in their own party in the Senate for it. But if you ever want to understand how progressives think, and this comes across with Cenk as well. Progressives think that every single American would support all of their policies if they just knew a little bit more about them. That's always underlining every single progressive or tanky and all progressive thought. Like we just need to push these incredibly far left things, and as soon as Americans see them, they'll all support them. That's always the thought. They just need to see it and they'll support it. And it's so like, I don't know.
yes, negotiating pharmaceutical prices and ensuring that insulin prices are capped at $35, which is now going to be looking like a Trump victory when he's in office. It doesn't matter. It's still good for the American people. So that's great. But like that is good, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
And I think that when you don't do that, when you have this very technocratic, third way neoliberal approach, but you sprinkle
the N-word
in a little bit of like anti-corporate, anti-billionaire populism that Joe Biden certainly did, it's not, you're a rudderless ship. You're not communicating effectively like what you are about. And when you don't have a North Star that every single person can point to and say, this is what the party is about, your enemies can portray you as whatever they want. And that's why the anti-trans ads are even remotely effective, because you can make the Democratic Party look clownish. And
he stumbled into this completely by accident, so I give him no credit for it. But I do think that the Democratic Party standing for something and having something that they're about, I think is important. And I do think the Democratic Party is missing that for sure.
inconsistent and even silly and hyper focused on whatever key issues there are, because one, they rarely ever focus on universality in programs. Everything has to be means tested, which I think is both on the policy front and on the politics front garbage.
You think that Americans are like, that's like, if you go and ask an average non-voting apathetic American voter, he's like, yeah, the issue is that they focus too much on means testing instead of universality in programs, so I didn't like it. Serious question, what is neoliberalism? Neoliberalism is literally whatever you want it to be.
Focus on universal programs, because that way you can cut across every single group, and you can disproportionately target marginalized populations, black populations, brown populations, and trans people. These people do not exist in a vacuum. They're not magical, mystical beings that are not experiencing the shocks of the market, or they still have to pay rent. They still need workplace protections. They still need, they still need the cost of medicine to go down, right? So universal programs capture the attention of all Americans, including this majority white, angry population that is finding themselves in the throes of the Republican reactionary movement. And so they need to do that. And if they don't do that, then the subtle populism of the right is always going to be the only game in town, and they're going to be able to present themselves as anti-establishment while they have billionaires parading around all the campaign stops, like Elon Musk trying to do that X logo every time he jumps, like a child.
God,
I hate Elon Musk.
That is the trick, though, man. They're like, it does speak to just how far, one place where. So if you listen to the Harris campaign's advisors talking to Dan Pfeiffer, I know you did, and you had problems with it. But one place where they agreed is that, everyone's saying, oh, this trans ad, it actually might not have been their most effective ad. And they were trying to, and what Quentin Folk said was that, they were actually really trying to target it to get at black men. And it looks like maybe that didn't work, right? That's sort of, we'll see, we're going to get more data. But, the point that the ad makes is just that, Democrats are weird. Democrats are strange, right? And, they use trans people as a cudgel to do that. But, to the larger point, you have billionaires, just literally the wealthiest man in the world.
The top seven donors this election cycle all donated to
Trump? Or is he going to find a way to blame the Democrats for the party of billionaires and corporate donations? Let's see. We'll see.
Literally the wealthiest man in the world.
The top seven donors this election cycle all donated to the Republican Party, and they were donating $100 million, $200 million. It was crazy.
How do you think about the fact that in right-wing media right now, and right-wing adjacent media, they are managing to be both the party of the wealthiest oligarchs in the world and the kind of traditional moral set trying to impose a specific way of living on people, and anti-establishment, kind of rebellious politics?
It's Nazi Germany, straight up. It's just pure fascism. That's all this is. It worked. It worked 100 years ago, and it's seemingly working right now. And it's not.
Well, how is that an answer to anything? How is it working? Well, you see, it's pure Nazism. Oh, how insightful. Okay.
Just the United States of America. It's all across Western Europe. The only country that bucked the trend of the incumbency disadvantage, seemingly, was Mexico. Mm-hmm. One must ask the question why an old doddering man who...
Is it because they were socialists?
Was still, relatively telegenic, even though he believed in wood elves, duendes, was able to get a tremendous amount of popularity and then become the transition candidate that actually passed the torch to a younger woman, Claudia Sheinbaum. I'm, of course, talking about Mexico. I'm talking about AMLO. Is the old man. Claudia Sheinbaum was his spiritual and ideological successor in the Morena Party. Why did that happen? Why was AMLO so popular?
Because they did. So they supported socialist policies and were, labor and something. Yes, please say it. Yes.
And why is Claudia Sheinbaum also incredibly popular? Why did Claudia Sheinbaum win the election with even larger margins of victory than AMLO did? It's because they expanded the welfare state, they increased minimum wage, and they made a whole bunch of decisions that genuinely improved the material conditions of a lot of people in Mexico. And that's something that people will never forget. We talked about the black vote for a second. As far as voter patterns goes, older black populations, older black voters of the voting bloc, is a more reliable voting bloc for the Democratic Party than younger black voters are. One must ask the question why. That is because people remember the last time the Democratic Party did something for black people, did something bold, expended social and political capital for black people. And that is something that people do not forget. If you give people things, they will not forget that. That's why there was a lot of dummies who thought, oh, Trump's back, we're going to get some stimmy checks. It's not going to happen, but they still remember that because they think, oh yeah, Trump gave us stimmy checks. Mm-hmm. I mean,
well, Joe Biden expanded. I mean, I
know.
And by the way, I'm not pushing back on any of this because I don't agree with the sentiment. I am trying in the weeks after this election to just question these sort of statements, because then it's well, Joe Biden expanded the child tax credit, made a huge difference for millions of children.
No, absolutely. The expansion of the child tax credit was fantastic, but it didn't continue. It was so successful and it didn't continue.
But why wouldn't you vote to have that again? Is it
Do you think American people know why that happened?
I don't.
Who's at fault if American people don't know why that happened?
That's a.
Yeah, but Kamala brought up like child tax credit like every single fucking time she was on stage, right? I feel like that was one of the most common talking points of Kamala and Biden. Like,
I think some of it is Democrats, some of it is the mainstream media, some of it is the right-wing media, and some of it, by the way, is the left. It is the media of the left, right?
Yes.
Like the first couple years, there's been so many moments where, my great frustration, I think, in the way politics is talked about is often people do not want to do the work of figuring out who's actually responsible, right? Like Republicans will shut down the government, and mainstream sources will say Washington gridlock continues, right? Or Joe Biden will be stymied in some way, or Barack Obama will be stymied. Why didn't Barack Obama do this? Why didn't Barack Obama do that when he had a majority, right? And he said, well, because it's actually, you know what? In the Senate, having 49 votes to get rid of the filibuster and having 50 votes to get rid of the filibuster is a difference between like, doing a ton of shit and not being able to do anything. That's not the fault of 49 people. That's the result of one person. Yeah.
Can I bring up something really quick?
if we would have just bullied Manchin or Cinema, we would have gotten everything we wanted. I don't know. What is he going to say? I don't even know what he could say to this.
This conversation that you and I are having, have you ever heard a Republican have this conversation?
Well,
oh my God. Oh, fuck. Hasan is actually still in my talking points. How doesn't he stream like 8 hours a day? I've heard a few of them come up. There's no way that he has time to do this. I can't believe that he's watching in all of his free time, he's only consuming my content. I don't believe it.
Really quick, this conversation that you and I are having, have you ever heard a Republican have this conversation?
Well, what do you mean? Like Republicans don't talk
Have you
this
ever
way?
heard a Republican go, sorry, we couldn't get this done because we simply did not have the votes? Is that ever like a real significant front-facing public conversation that the Republicans have?
I mean, I feel like you want the answer to be no, but like, do you think the answer is yes?
I can't recall a time. Maybe no. I'm asking you.
No, I think on their side, like I think they have over the last decade slowly but surely gotten rid of the people who are pointing out the actual things that stand.
What's your response to the Mexican incumbency thing? I don't know enough about the Mexican political situation or their elections or anything at all to say I don't know enough about the Mexican political situation. But I also wouldn't take anything Hasan says at face value either, so I have no clue.
And in their way,
Yeah,
right? They went after Kevin McCarthy.
Better.
They went well, yeah, and sometimes that works. Sometimes that leaves them like pretty well stuck. I mean, like Donald Trump was president for 4 years. He wanted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. He didn't have the votes, right? There was a big conversation about why he didn't have the votes. That like there have been like the Republican base like furious with spending bills that were passed, right?
What did Donald Trump do after when John McCain struck down the Affordable Care Act?
What did he do?
He took out the individual mandate regardless. He did.
Well, he did what the same thing a Democratic president would do. Do as much as you can legislatively, and when it fails, use your executive power, which is what Biden has done on student loans and a bunch of other issues.
Yeah, so my point is, he still got the most significant aspect of his, agenda.
Like, how does, like, this is what I mean when I say I don't. Maybe just people just listen to these conversations on different levels. So
McCain struck down the.
Like furious with spending bills that were passed, right?
What did Donald Trump do after when John McCain struck down the Affordable Care Act?
So Hasan is trying to make the point here that Republicans will go harder and do more to support what they want to support, right? That even after Donald Trump failed, he still did executive actions after. That's the point Hasan is trying to make, right?
What did he do?
He took out the individual mandate regardless. He did.
Well, he did what the same thing a Democratic president.
And then John rightfully counters, Biden does the same shit. Democrats do the same shit. If we fail legislatively, then we go, where do you think DACA came from? By the way, that's executive action, right? Where do you think the slashing for student loans came from? That came through executive action after failing legislatively and even having the Supreme Court shoot down some executive action. So it's the exact same thing, right? On the Democratic side as well. So John counters the point, and then Hasan continues on with his conclusion, even though John just completely obliterated the point that he was trying to make there, right? Oh, well, Republicans are willing to go this far, but Democrats aren't. No, he's literally given an example of Democrats doing it, but...
President would do as much as you can legislatively, and when it fails, use your executive power, which is what Biden has done on student loans and a bunch of other issues.
Yeah, so my point is...
Your point is that Republicans are willing to go further than Democrats are, but that's just not true. But he's just going to make the same point that he's going to make regardless, whatever.
He still got the most significant aspect of his, agenda across, and in the process, he utilized the bully pulpit to laser John McCain nonstop and effectively bully John McCain in a way that I've never seen a Democratic president turn around and communicate about.
Yeah, but John McCain died. What are you talking about, bro? This is the dumbest example ever. It didn't work on John McCain. He wasn't able to repeal and replace the ACA. It literally failed. It literally did not work. Why would this be your go-to example?
Joe Biden. I'll hear it about the left, about how they're naysayers, how they're spoilers. I never hear it about conservative Democrats. And I think...
Also, I don't think Trump was working with a fucking one-vote majority at this point either. And I don't think... Who was replacing McCain? Was this like a hotly contested Republican Democrat seat in the same way that like Manchin is like, if Manchin's gone, it's a Republican that's stepping up. It's a Republican that's replacing him, like full stop. Like there's not even, this is not a contested election at that point. Like, okay.
It's the
we talked about that.
It's the coalition that you want to have, is my point. And I think Democrats, win or lose, want to win by their own like established policies and the way that they want to win, and they're willing to lose if necessary, as long as they still maintain the overarching attitude that they.
Cinema was the replacement for McCain. Yeah, but it's not the same as replacing like Manchin, who's like, this is such an unbelievably red.
Have.
I just think that is,
or maybe they're just bad and wrong.
Well, I just
know.
think that I think people need to be persuaded. I think people need to be persuaded. Like David Plouffe talking to Pfeiffer yesterday. He's like, look, you go to a swing state. You got a certain percentage of liberals, progressives. You got a certain percentage of conservatives, and you got this vast swath of moderates. You need them. You need them. Now, I think where you're right is like there is something about a Democratic establishment figures that feel more comfortable with a Liz Cheney sitting at the table than with a leftist sitting at the table.
It's gross.
And that the disagreements with Liz Cheney are more kind of are acceptable, and the disagreements to the left are less acceptable.
But one must ask the question, why is that acceptable? Liz Cheney is anti-LGBT. Liz Cheney is anti-abortion. Liz Cheney is anti-Democratic Party. Liz Cheney is the daughter of a rabid, warmongering, terrorist sociopath, Dick Cheney. And yet there are Democrats who are more comfortable with her than people who also would totally be on board with the Democratic Party, but I don't know, have maybe sometimes identical opinions of Liz Cheney on even LGBT issues. Like Joe Rogan is a great example of this.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party has consistently utilized and weaponized in the most cynical ways possible identity politics. And I say this as someone who is infinitely more progressive than the average Democrat on these issues. Mm-hmm. They just use it. They use it against Bernie. They use it against every single person. And now they're dropping it themselves. That makes every Democrat look like aggressive than the average Democrat on these issues. Mm-hmm. They just use it. They use it against Bernie. They use it against every single person, and now they're dropping it themselves. That makes every Democrat look like a silly fool. That makes it does in the eyes of Americans. They go, you called us racist, you called us transphobic, you called us crazy, and now you're saying, okay, my bad, we got to drop this woke shit. Like, of course people are going to go, all right, I guess like I'm primed into now believing the Republicans. Like you're pushing your base towards being more open-minded.
Like imagine thinking that this is like what's motivating like the average voter that didn't go out of vote. Was like, well, they were super woke and they were weaponizing identity politics against Bernie Sanders in 2016 to 2020. Now that they've stopped doing that, I feel like the Republicans actually had a really good argument on identity politics. So now I'm not going to go out and vote, rather than just like the cost of all my shit is way more. Fuck this. Like, I don't think that this is the average. I'm sure there's like a group of people online maybe that are, or that are like ultra super politically engaged maybe. But I think that like the attacks on like just broader attacks on woke shit are probably more mobilizing than this like line of thought.
To right-wing policies.
Yeah, the average voter probably still thinks that the Democrats are super identity politics anyway. Right? Probably what the average voter thinks anyway.
Only thing you're doing. And that's how... And that's the only thing you're doing when you don't actually claw back a lot of the things that the former Republican administration engages in. Like Democrats are very good at trying to fix the deficit. They're the only real deficit hawks, right? Republicans certainly don't care. They only use it as a weapon to wield to communicate against the Democratic agenda. But outside of that, like on foreign policy, Joe Biden said he was going to be an effective foreign policy leader. He did NATO. He kept talking about NATO Jack, AUKUS, as though that was going to be.
He loved talking about AUKUS. Yeah. Like I've never been more like nervous in politics. Like. Other than the day before an election, than when Joe Biden was still in the race and he did that press conference and he was like, he talked about AUKUS. It's like, no one knows what the fuck AUKUS is.
Yeah, okay, that's a deep cut.
That is a deep cut.
But like Joe Biden was like, I'm the adult in the room, Jack. I'm going to bring back America into the global stage. The way that the American public sees that is like, there's a war in Ukraine, right? And that's not even Joe Biden's fault. Like, I understand that. That's Vladimir Putin decided, I'm going to do the insane thing. I'm going to invade Ukraine. That's psychotic, right? But the way that people see it, they're like, why are we giving money to Ukraine when we're not fixing the potholes? Why are we giving money to Ukraine when the ISPs suck here? What the hell's going on? Why are we giving money to Ukraine when we don't have healthcare? We have homeless people everywhere. And then on top of that, they see that instability as like something that is Joe Biden's fault. Fair or unfair, doesn't matter. They attribute it to Joe Biden. Same thing with Israel-Palestine. They look to what is going on and they're like, this is insane. Like, why Biden will come out and say, or used to come out and say, we're going to do a two-state solution. Benjamin Netanyahu the next day would be like, fuck the two-state. What do you mean? How about no state? Literally, the next day. And Biden kept trying to do this thing where he was like finger wagging, where he's like, I'm gonna give him a heart to heart, real man to man. For a lot of Americans, they saw that as like, you're weak, you're old, you're weak, you're feeble, and you're getting dog walked by an American ally in a very public and very embarrassing way. And there's a metric ton of violence that's happening on top of that. Like he ironically destroyed the goodwill that a lot of people had coming into his administration with with the last, I guess, like post-Afghanistan withdrawal, everything was bad after that with respect to Joe Biden's foreign policy.
It also just like it's also tied to.
I still defend the Afghan withdrawal, by the way, and I think the Democrats also dropped the ball on that too, because they should have stood 10 toes down and said that was the right thing to do. We exhibited political courage. And for the record, Republicans tried to do the 13 of our best soldiers died in Afghanistan thing over and over again. The cynical thing that they tried to do.
Republicans are shameless. Democrats are less so.
No, they should be shameless.
I'm describing what the issue is. Yeah, I mean, part of this though too, huge policy problem in how the Biden administration has responded to the war in Gaza. But on that issue, on a bunch of foreign policy issues, a bunch of domestic issues. Some of the problem has been Joe Biden gave State of the Union, which was good. And everyone's like, okay. That's what happened, right?
Okay.
But other than that, he has been such an ineffective communicator and it has gotten so much worse over the last year.
Yeah, because he's old as fuck.
I know, but like, we're in this moment where we're like kind of trying to like, what went wrong? What about this? What about that? People are so mad. Like the people are they're like the answers that Kamala's advisors gave were unsatisfying. Yeah, they are unsatisfying. But so much of this is just like there was a giant anti-incumbent fervor around the world. Joe Biden was completely unable to articulate a defense of his policies, right? Like the fact that there is inflation and people are mad about inflation is not a reason alone. that explains.
Yeah, but I think again, it goes into the media apparatus. Like nobody is able to. The Democrats are never able to defend themselves because who's going to defend them? It's not the left because the left all shits on them. And then the center and the right are all 100% Trump dick sucks. They'll never change their mind on that. They absolutely all, like, how many eye rolls were there when like another centrist figure comes out like, I'm going to have to support Donald Trump in this election. Like, blah, blah, blah. Did the Trigonometry guys ever announce who they supported? Like that Constantine guy, did they ever come out and say anything? I'm curious. I don't even know if I don't think either of them are citizens in the United States, are they? But I wonder if they ever came out and said specifically who they supported.
Means that can explain why we lost if you accept that we had no agency in competing against that argument. But like Joe Biden certainly had just could not.
Okay, I'm bored. This is boring to me.
Fine.
Call me right wing. He made a call me right wing video.
Call me right wing.
Did he support Donald Trump or? Oh, the graph. Oh, it's the thing. Oh, wow, the thing.
For years, I've aggressively rejected the label of conservative and right-wing, not only because it was being used as a smear in elite discourse, but also because it doesn't accurately reflect how I think. My political journey is best summarized by this cartoon from my friend Colin Wright at Reality's Last Stand. That said, being right-wing was never a term of insult to me because it has never occurred to me that half of every country in the world is evil. What, we should demonize anyone who's on the right? Really? How carefully have you thought about this? How many woke people do you really think there are in the US Marine Corps or in the British SAS? What, we're going to pretend that the men and women who defend our country have nothing to offer it when it comes to values, mindset, and worldview?
Okay, I don't even know what that has to do with anything, but...
2 weeks on each side of the election in the United States, I just don't care anymore. I was at the Trump event in Madison Square Garden, which was roundly described as a Nazi rally.
But when I was there, I just saw a bunch of people who were happy and healthy and loved each other and loved the country, and it was overwhelmingly positive, and everybody there was just super cool and so friendly and so awesome.
Not go there with my MAGA hat and pom-poms. I went there to see it with my own eyes as an independent journalist. You've probably read or watched my satirical take on what I saw there. But in all seriousness, the gap between the media lies and reality was too big for me to leave the event unchanged. What affected me most was not what I saw, it was what I didn't see. I didn't see racism. Well, an edgy comedian made some jokes and the media said he made racist remarks. But there was no actual racism. I didn't see an angry mob. To my British eye, it looked more like a WWE event. Political entertainment. The people who were there didn't agree with the comedian's racist comments. It's just that, unlike journalists, they know the difference between comments and jokes. I saw none of what I'd been promised. And that was eye-opening. It's difficult to communicate what this is like to someone who hasn't experienced it, but the nearest I can get to it is this photograph. Look at it. Does the man in the middle look like he thinks the man on the left is a Nazi whose supporters are garbage? And yet that is exactly what he said a week before the election.
Oh, no. Not the photo argument. Oh, no. Oh, Jesus. Oh, fuck me, dude. Oh, I wasn't ready for that. Oh, no. Is that the first lyrics to this?
Look at this photograph.
My point is, the media lies weren't exaggerations. They were just lies. And seeing is believing. But most of all, what I saw in America was choice. You could vote for more of the same, or you could vote for someone who would come in and actually do something. Unlike the British Conservative Party, which spent 14 years being woke before limping out of office, handing an even more woke Labour Party a gigantic parliamentary majority, the American right isn't messing around. You may hate Trump's appointees, but you can't argue they don't represent a break from business as usual. You think the military is going to be woke under former Army National Guard officer Pete Hegseth? How do you think DEI is going to fare under Elon and Vivek? Do you think Tom Homan, former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is going to keep the border open? Trump's appeal is not that he's a steady hand who will maintain the country's stable and positive trajectory. It's that he represents an opportunity to avert disaster. And the truth is, as I've been warning for some time, that is exactly what the West is on course for if we don't change direction. I didn't know how exactly I'd feel when Trump was elected. Turns out, I was relieved. This is not incompatible with being a centrist or radical moderate or an independent. But the luxury of nuance...
It's so crazy that all these radical centrists and all these independents and all these guys are like, oh, I'm glad that Trump won. Crazy how that works. Crazy how every single one of them was locked up. Isn't that kind of weird? Huh? Weird, huh?
Lasts only until the day of the election, the one day that actually matters. The world of many shades of grey becomes black and white inside the voting booth. So I will maintain my intellectual independence. I'm too disagreeable not to. But after what the Democrats tried to pass off as presidential material in the last election, and the way that Starmer's government is about to nosedive the British economy, it's time to acknowledge that the left is asking all the wrong questions and has none of the answers. As journalist Josh Barrow hilariously observed 2 weeks ago, the Democrats were the party which committed itself to transgender surgeries for illegal aliens and then failed to actually perform any.
Yes, that was definitely the biggest talking point. Oh my God.
If opposing this insanity makes me right-wing, so be it. Ultimately, the choice is between civilization and people who think men can give birth. Everything else is fluff. If you enjoy these videos, remember they're available.
True. Wait, did Sam Cedar go on Tim Pool again, or is this from the show like a couple weeks ago or whatever? Didn't we watch this already? Is this a picture or a video that's just not loading?
Ask you this, since you bring up Russia.
Yeah.
Do you feel...
Oof. I don't know if we watched this. Hold on one sec. Let me get a sippy story time.